This is the Khmer Times News. My name is Paolo Bonini, and this week I have a Ukraine special as I am away dealing with a matter of a delicate nature. Now, this special report on the ongoing war has a very central focus, and that is Vladimir Putin, the leader of Russia. And I, in fact, have had a fascination about this man for many long years, reading every book I can get my hands on. And I have often wondered, how will this dictator lose his iron grip on power? Is it even possible he could be overthrown? Many believe Putin is the strong man of Russia and he could never fall. But that is not true. You see, the history of dictators teaches us one thing, and that is that they are in power until they are not. And what I mean by that is dictators do not slide into obscurity. They do not retire. One minute they control an entire nation, its parliament, its army, its entire financial system. And then, in the blink of an eye, they are gone. Just like Nicolae Ceausescu, the dictator of Romania. Here he is, standing on a balcony, laying down the law. But that day, the crowd rose in revolt. And literally, a few moments later, he is flying away in a helicopter, scurrying off to get away from the baying mob. It was the very next day he was captured with his unbelievably awful wife. And the pair of them were shot on state television by their own military. Or how about Gaddafi, who again had complete control of his nation until he was ambushed by his own people. He hid in a water pipe, but was soon dragged out, and then he was beaten to death. Many said the most amazing thing about Gaddafi's final moments was he was utterly surprised that the people had risen up against him and his evil regime. The man that controlled all was now all alone and afraid, and his reign came to a very sudden end. And they are not alone. Idi Amin of Uganda, Benito Mussolini of Italy, the list goes on. They all had power until they didn't. And what the Ukrainian war has done to Putin and to Russia is truly shocking. Putin's grip on power is now failing, and it is due to Russia itself falling apart in so many different ways. Putin overran Crimea in March of 2014. The world did not oppose this land grab. The politicians stood up. They made some discouraging noises. Then they all sat down again. It was this that emboldened Putin. If he could take Crimea, why not all of Ukraine? And in his mind, he may well have been playing this piece of footage. He had seen how Baghdad and Iraq had been taken by the Americans. They had literally just rolled across the country in a matter of days. And he wanted some of that. If they could do it, then why not he? So, in February of 2022, Russia started its ludicrously named Special Military Operation, an operation that was set to last just 5 days. The plan said that in less than a week, the Russians would have taken Kiev and a puppet government would safely be installed. But no, that did not happen. In fact, it could not be further from reality. After 3.5 blood-soaked years, the fighting still goes on. And this war is causing immeasurable damage, not only to Russia, but also to Putin himself. Let's start with Russia's military. Despite what Russia would like you to believe, their military have been thrown against the wall and have been given a very severe beating by an opponent who was not even supposed to be able to fight. Ukraine was supposed to fold in just a matter of hours. But now, after 1,300 long and brutal days, Russia controls less than 0.5% of Ukraine. And the price they have paid is massive. And I do mean massive. There is over 1 million Russian soldiers killed or wounded. Now, this number is terrifying, as Russia's Afghan war, which was largely seen as a failure, went on for 10 years. And there was 33,000 casualties and 5,000 deaths. That disaster is nothing compared to right now in Ukraine. In just 3.5 years, with over 1 million deaths and casualties. And every day, that number grows by another 1,000 Russian soldiers who fall victim to a war that is achieving very little. Now, you may remember this. I showed it to you 2 weeks ago. It shows all of Russia's land gains from July of 2024 to July of 2025, a full year of fighting that racked up over 350,000 Russian casualties just to advance less than 50 kilometers at its most successful point. That ain't an advancing army. That is a meat grinder that is chewing up young men's lives. This has not only shown how very poorly the Russian military performs, but also Russia's military equipment has been exposed as being outdated, ineffective, and on many occasions, it's just obsolete. As just one example, the T-14 Armata, Russia's very latest, greatest tank that was to be feared by all Western nations. Well, the T-14 is so bad, it actually broke down on its first public outing at the Victory Day Parade. The engine is so bad, it's wholly unreliable. Add in that the armour is inadequate and its weak points are numerous, including it cannot withstand top-down attacks from things like drones. Oh dear. But that tank that there is going skyward was not a T-14. That's impossible, and I will explain that in just a moment. You see, after spending over $250 million developing Russia's latest, biggest, baddest tank, not a single one has appeared on the Ukrainian battlefield. Hence, I can tell you without any doubt that this tank being blown up was not a T-14. So why were none of these tanks used in Ukraine? It's because they couldn't let anyone see how ineffective they were. You see, Russia is one of the largest arms exporters in the world, selling nearly $13 billion of weapons in 2023. But these sales have collapsed by 53% in 2023 and a huge drop of 47% in 2024. That's really not good, as arms sales account for nearly 5% of Russia's GDP. But now, due to the Ukrainian war, their sales have plummeted, as their weapon systems have performed so very badly on a modern battlefield. Another quick example is the S-400 missile defense system that keeps getting blown up by missiles. Yes, a missile defense system that can't even protect itself from modern missiles. That's not what potential customers want to see. So a pillar of Russia's economy, its multi-billion-dollar arms sales, has all but shriveled to nothing, as has its profits from oil and gas. When Putin declared war, he sent the Russian economy into a nosedive, and he did actually prepare for this by putting away $186 billion in the Russian Wealth Fund. But as has been widely reported, due to the prolonged war and sanctions, that money chest is now almost empty, and it is estimated is now only worth $35 billion. War is not expensive. God no. War is really expensive. And when your main source of income is also drying up, oil and gas, things can only get worse. Gazprom is the jewel in Russia's energy crown, and it poured billions of dollars into the economy. But now, that font of plenty has not just dried up, Gazprom is now losing money. It's the same story with oil, as Gazprom Neft, the largest oil company, is also losing money. It ain't just Gazprom, oil and gas, but many other oil giants like Surgot, who are also losing hundreds of millions of dollars, and soon to be billions of dollars. This is all money that is not flowing into Russia's war economy, an economy that is hemorrhaging cash every single day, and it just gets worse. The war is costing hundreds of billions of dollars. Major industries like the sales of arms, of gas, of oil are all now not making vast piles of cash. Instead, they are reporting huge losses. The Russian economy is in trouble, and some even say these issues, compounded with time, could only lead to another bankruptcy, as was seen at the end of the Soviet Union. Remember how I started this report, saying dictators are in power until they are not? Well, even political regimes like the mighty Communist Party of Russia was eventually toppled, and it fell under the weight of debt. One minute, the mighty Russian communist bear roared at the West, and the West flinched in fear. And then all of a sudden, this happened. This is the flag of the USSR being lowered over the Kremlin for the very last time. It is impossible to say how monumental this moment was. It will only ever be understood by Gen Xers like myself, who grew up with a real fear of nuclear war. But when that flag fell, it was all over. The Communist Party seized control in 1922, and the lowering of that flag changed not just Russia, but the entire world. And now an ex-KGB agent from that very same Communist Party, who believed he could crush his neighbours in just 5 short days, has casualties of over 1 million men. An economy that is in desperate trouble. And maybe, worst of all, is the whole world has clearly seen the mighty Russian bear does not have the claws we all once thought it did. This has been the Khmer Times News. Please do subscribe and comment and stay up to date with all the breaking news by following us on both Facebook and Telegram. This has been Paolo Bonini, and that was the week that was. I'll see you next weekend for your weekly Roundup.